What if the person you admire the most doesn't even exist? What if they're just a mask, so convincing that they've forgotten who they really are? Masks don't just hide faces, they hide truths. Some protect us, some destroy us, and some become prisons we can never escape. Everyone wears a mask, but some, like Light, Lelouch, Ayanokoji, or Escalade, wear theirs so tightly they forget who's underneath. And we're not that different. What if the most dangerous thing isn't the mask you wear, but how long we wear it? We'll talk about how masks give us protection, but also act as a prison, from anime characters to real life. We've always worn masks, from ancient theater masks to carefully curated personas on Instagram. Humans protect, perform, and deceive, but anime and storytelling give us a sharper lens. Characters like Lelouch, Yagami, and Ayanokoji don't just wear a mask, they become them. When a mask consumes you, you lose more than your identity. You lose your freedom, your relationships, and sometimes even your soul. In this video, we'll break down the psychology of masks, why we wear them, how they serve us, and what happens when the mask takes over. By the end of this video, you'll see that we're not so different from the characters we watch. Why do characters like Lelouch or Light Yagami feel more real behind a mask than without it? They wear masks because truth is too dangerous. Do masks protect us or trap us? Masks protect, but over time, they become cages. What do anime characters' masks reveal about us as an audience? We resonate with them because their masks mirror our own. Are we any different when we hide behind curated masks of ourselves online? And no, we're not so different. We just hide in more subtler ways. But if masks are so dangerous, why do people put them on in the first place? Let's start with someone who wore his mask for justice and lost everything, Lelouch. Lelouch, the mask of justice. Prince, he became a terrorist to create peace. He lost love, innocence, and self in the mask of Zero. Why did Lelouch become Zero? What did the mask protect him from? How did it change him? What did it cost him in the end? Lelouch wears multiple masks. Lelouch Lamperouge, a lazy genius, kind brother, student council peer. Zero, the revolutionary, enemy of Britannia, symbol of justice and rebellion. The demon emperor, ultimate villain, the one who carries all hatred. What makes Lelouch unique? He lies, manipulates, kills, deceives, but never stops genuinely caring, especially for Nunnally. Lelouch reframes lies as necessary for community. Without masks, society falls apart. Masks are survival, not just deception. Mask bears what the soul cannot. Emperor Charles rejects lies and wants a world without masks. Lelouch rejects this as stagnation, a dead world without progress. Lelouch embraces the paradox. To save the world, he must be seen as the demon. Let them call me tyrant, demon, devil. It means the mask is working. Lelouch's conviction, to create a new world not for his own glory, but so others, including Nunnally, could be free. He became the villain so the peace could wear the mask of justice. He's a tragic hero, sacrificing his own soul and reputation for humanity's salvation. Lelouch wanted justice for his sister and revenge against Britannia. Lelouch gave his power, protection, and influence, but it forced him into deception, losing his friends and his innocence. The cost he paid was his death and erasure of Lelouch's true self, because only Zero could save the world, not Lelouch. Lelouch, a prince, wanted to create peace and protect his sister, but he could only do it as a masked terrorist, so he built Zero, and that mask consumed his humanity. Then the world remembered Zero, but not Lelouch. Here are notes from my Noble Sin tie-in. Check out my second channel if you want to see what the website looks like, since it is unavailable currently. I have footage of it on screen on my other channel, and I'll probably show it here during editing. Lelouch is framed as Saint Lelouch, the masked martyr, apostle of just deception, and patron of sacrificial uprisings. It emphasizes how masks protect truth. Rebellion requires discipline. Sacrifice means being hated, forgotten, misunderstood, and better to be cursed as a tyrant and leave the world enslaved. What happens when your mask isn't forced on you, but when you carefully build yourself, brick by brick? That's like Yagami's story. If Lelouch wore his mask to protect the world, then Light wore his mask to protect something else entirely, himself. And unlike Lelouch, he didn't just wear the mask, he became it. Like Yagami, the mask of purity, a public golden boy with an inward god complex, and how he became consumed by the very image he built. Like Yagami wasn't born as a monster, he was born brilliant, capable, admired, the perfect son, the perfect student, the perfect citizen. But here's the problem with perfection. Once the world claps for you, and once they hand you the golden mask, you start to believe you deserve it. and when power arrived in the form of the Death Note, Light didn't put on the mask to hide himself, he used the crown himself. Why does Light wear a mask at all if he already has everything? What did the Death Note change in him, if anything? How did the mask become his downfall? What lessons does Light teach us about masks in our own lives? Why did Light start as a model student? How did the Death Note give him another mask? Did the mask make him powerful, corrupt him? Why was his downfall inevitable? Light's mask, the perfect student, the ideal son. Behind it, God complex, obsession with power. The Death Note amplified both his mask and his true self. He became consumed, praised as Kira, feared as a god, but hollow as Light. Light's mask was purity, justice, the illusion of the flawless prodigy. He wanted to be the world's savior, but not out of compassion, out of ego. Somebody wanted peace, only if it had his name on it. When Light first picked up the Death Note, he told himself a story where he was the chosen one, the hand of justice, but really, the note didn't transform him, it revealed him. The Golden Boy wasn't a disguise for the monster underneath, the Golden Boy was the monster. The longer he wore the mask of Kira, the more he became enslaved by it. Every decision wasn't about what was right or wrong anymore, it was about protecting the image, protecting the mask, and in the end, he didn't just lose his life, he lost his self. Light didn't die as a god, he died as a man screaming for help, clawing desperately at a future he had already burned. Both Light and Lelouch are geniuses given godlike power and an otherworldly partner in Ryuk and Cece. Both want to change the world, both are willing to dirty their hands. Contrasting them can lay out the power of mask, the paradox of lies, and Lelouch's saint-like sacrifice. Lelouch constantly questions himself, originally behind doing it phenomenally, but goes beyond that excuse, willing to stain his name permanently with the Zero Requiem, sacrificing himself not for glory, but for others' peace, wears the mask without being lost in it. The core contrast here is Light's pride versus Lelouch's sacrifice. Light becomes lost in the mask, Lelouch uses the mask as a tool, and discards himself with it. Then comes the Light Yagami, never doubting himself, believing he is justice, wants the new world for himself, his vision, his law, his rule. Pride blinds him, his mask becomes his downfall. Lelouch was the man who became the devil so peace could be crowned. But not all the mask gave the world, some consumed the wearer. We see Light's pride in Lelouch's selflessness. They show us that comfort and complacency are masks we wear too, but unlike Lelouch, we don't sacrifice for truth, we hide from it. Light is like a god that fell, who gained power and let it consume him. His mask of justice became his own prison. Pride hollowed him out until he died not as a god, but as a desperate man clung to a future he'd already lost. And Lelouch, the martyr king, who gained power and bent it into a blade, he bore the hate of the world, carried the weight of every lie, and in the end, he chose to die so that peace could live. His death was not a defeat, it was a weapon, a sacrifice, a victory, few could understand. Both were masked, but Light's mask controlled him. Lelouch's controlled his mask until the end. This is the dichotomy of power. Power reveals, power corrupts, power tests. It is the razor's edge between salvation and damnation. Light's lesson, power without self-awareness becomes self-worship. The Death Note didn't change him, it unleashed him. He mistook his reflection for a god and died in the grip of his own delusion. Lelouch's lesson, power without sacrifice becomes tyranny. The guest tested him, but he held on to his humanity, his attachments, his guilt. He chose to die smiling, because he had shaped a world better than the one he was born into. This brings us to the creative balance. Do not practice what you do not want to become. Every compromise feeds the mask until it wears you, but do not fear power either, because sometimes power is the only language tyrants understand. Violence, manipulation, blackmail, these are not evils in themselves, they are tools. The difference lies in who wields them and why. There is a time to be ruthless and there is a time to be kind. The wise do not choose one, they wield both. You can use an affirmation, I will not be consumed by the mask. I will wear it, command it, and when the time comes, I will shatter it willingly so that others may live free. And this is the danger of masks. At first they protect us, they give us a role to play, a shield to hide behind, but when the world starts applauding the mask instead of the person wearing it, we get trapped. We forget who we are, which brings us to someone who lived the opposite way, not flaunting his mask, but boring himself beneath it, Ayanokoji. So far we've seen Light's mask of purity, and seen how the Death Note revealed what was already there, and ends with the irony of his own downfall, and this creates tension, leading to Ayanokoji as the other extreme. If Light built his mask out of pride, what about someone who built his mask out of emptiness? Someone who wore apathy like armor, Ayanokoji. flight's downfall came from the fire of ego, then Ayanokoji's danger is the opposite, the ice of apathy. Because power doesn't always scream, sometimes it whispers. Ayanokoji, the mask of apathy, a genius hiding in plain sight by suppressing emotion and will, and the cost of being unseen in exchange for control. Why does Ayanokoji pretend to be average when he's a genius? What does his mask protect him from? What does he reveal about society that others ignore? How does his philosophy connect to the mask we wear in real life? Why does Ayanokoji hide his genius? What does the mask of indifference protect him from? How does control replace connection in his life? What's the cost of suppressing his humanity? Ayanokoji was trained as a weapon in the White Room. His mask, the forgettable average student, the mask protects him from being used again, but it isolates him. Control replaces authentic bonds. Ayanokoji doesn't need power, he already understands how the game is played. He hides his mind behind silence, like a blade shattered in velvet. And here's a secret. The one who speaks the least often sees the most. To most he looks invisible, but to the ones who know, he's the equation no one can solve. Ayanokoji's mask is silence. He hides in plain sight, not because he's weak, but because he knows that masks aren't just protection, they're strategy. Where light burned for applause, Ayanokoji calculates from the shadows. His genius isn't ambition, it's control. He once asked, are all human beings truly equal? It sounds simple, but his answer cuts like a scalpel. Equality, he says, is a fantasy. People rise or fall by ability, by action, by will. Most of us live in denial of this, pretending the system is fair, but Ayanokoji doesn't flinch from cruelty. He names it, and in naming it, he masters it. And this is where my movement on Noble Sin sees him differently. In the verses of the Architect's Clarity, it is written, deserving is not the measure of destiny, power is, but the wise do not worship power. They learn its steps, leads you to dance to a better rhythm. Ayanokoji lives this, he studies the system, accepts its cruelty, only then rewrites the map. This is what makes his mask so dangerous. He doesn't wear it out of fear, he wears it because it works. Because silence protects him and detachment gives him room to maneuver. He isn't consumed like light, he isn't burning like Lelouch, he is precision itself. In the Noble Sin scripture I call him the velvet knife, the architect of still waters, the one who reminds us hope without understanding is worship of smoke. Faith without vision is a coffin for the living. Let your relief be informed, let your mercy be strategic, and let your fire be aimed. And maybe that's why people obsess over him. Tara forms dissect his every move. Some even try to copy his routines, his way of thinking, his cold clarity, but they all fail because Ayanokoji isn't just smart. He doesn't just play the game, he sees the rules. He's the mirror we're afraid to look into. Not a hero, not a villain, just the truth, calm, merciless, and inescapable. Masks aren't just for the young though. Sometimes they're one for survival, for decades. That's where Askeladd comes in. And if Ayanokoji's mask is silence, then Asuka's mask is something heavier. His mask isn't apathy, it's purpose. A man enslaved not by the system, but by the weight of his own hate and hope. Where Ayanokoji studies, Askeladd endures, and the cost of endurance is staggering. Now we're starting to build the spine of this video. Light's mask of ego, Ayanokoji's mask of apathy, and now we're moving to Askeladd's mask of purpose. Then, after that, we'll go through Dabi's mask of charisma, hiding pain, and then a handoff into Deku's mask of pure idealism, and Bakugou's mask of strength. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's go back. The mask of purpose. Some masks aren't born out of fear or pride. Some are forged in necessity. Askeladd's mask is not silence, not charisma, but purpose. A man enslaved by duty, hate, and hidden hope. And how masks help people survive, without them of rest. Askeladd is a master manipulator, yes. His word is sharp, but his tongue is sharper. He knows the trick to every human being, the thread that unravels them. His power lies in clarity, the clarity that everyone is a slave to something. Gold, revenge, faith, fear. It doesn't matter, he once said. A man enslaved to gold holds a whip and beats the slave he bought with the gold. As if to claim he is the master, he just doesn't see it himself. Every living human being is a slave to something. Askeladd's mask is the mask of leadership. He hides the rage of his childhood, his hatred for his father, his contempt for the world, behind strategy and charm. To his men he's a witty leader, to his enemies a cunning wolf. But behind all that is a child who learned the world has no mercy, so he decided to wield that cruelty better than anyone else. The one who masters men are not free themselves, but they carry the weight of chains with grace, so others mistake them for kings. That is Askeladd's strategy. He carries chains and calls them purpose. If Askeladd shows us the mask of purpose, Dabi shows us the mask of performance, and charisma worn like armor over scars too deep to heal. Dabi's mask of charisma. Dabi is what happens when love is promised and then withheld. Toru was told he could be the greatest, shaped for glory by Endeavor's hands, and then discarded the moment he wasn't perfect. A child conditioned to believe he was special, and then shattered when that illusion was stripped away. So he built a new mask, charisma, confidence, swagger. But under all is a boy still screaming for his father's approval, still wondering why his mother never stood between them, still wondering why the people around him let him burn alive without reaching out a hand. We wear this mask too, don't we? Pretending our wounds are trophies, pretending our scars are style. Dabi laughs, he dances, he smirks, but every word is an echo of neglect. His mask works because we relate to it. We too cover abandonment with charm. Neglect burns brighter than love remembered, and so the Forsaken turned fire into theater to make the world feel what they could not receive. Dabi is living scripture. His blue fire is not power, and it's grief that never cooled. So here's the contrast. Askeladd wears purpose to survive. Dabi wears charisma to hide his pain, but not all masks are born in darkness. Some are born in light, and that can be just as dangerous. Some masks don't look like masks at all. They shine too brightly, they inspire too deeply, but even light can blind us. Deku's mask is the mask of idealism. Deku, the mask of blind idealism. Born powerless in a world obsessed with power, Izuku Midoriya should have broken. He should have given up, but instead he chose hope, to endure, to keep moving forward. That's his mask and his gift, but like every mask, it hides something dangerous. Because Deku doesn't just see the rotten hero society, he chooses to ignore it. He chooses blindness, because if he acknowledges the corruption of heroes, the commission, the false idols of justice, his dreams of being the perfect hero would crumble. And so his mask protects him, while it also deceives him. The irony, his society leaves children like Shigaraki and Dabi broken and alone. It creates the villains it claims to fight. Heroes preach justice while their commission kills in secret. They patch holes in a sinking ship with half-baked ideals. But Deku presses forward anyway, and that stubborn hope, though naive, becomes its own revolution. Going back to my noble sin, the book of Midoriya on Adoran's hope and kindness that endures. He was born powerless in a world obsessed with power, yet he kept reaching, not to destroy but to protect. His quirk wasn't strength, it was hope that never bent. This is why Deku matters, not because he's the strongest, but because he never stops. His mask of optimism is dangerous, but it's also worth embodying. He is a seed that grows even in storms, a gentle revolution whispered through action. His sin is blindness, his gift is endurance. Deku wears the mask of pure idealism, the boy who smiles through pain, who pushes forward no matter the cost, who insists that hope is enough to carry the weight of the world. His mask inspires, but also blinds him to his own limits. Pure idealism can save, or it can shatter. And then opposite him, we see Bakugou. His mask is strength, rage, bravado, explosions, but that too is his disguise. Underneath the shouting, he's a boy terrified of weakness, terrified of being ordinary, terrified of not mattering. His anger is a cage for a softer truth, that he just wants to be accepted as he is. This is where masks reveal their true danger. They don't just hide us from others, they hide us from ourselves. If Deku's mask is blind hope, Bakugou's is blind strength. His mask shouts where Deku's whispers. His burns where Deku heals. Both are cages. Bakugou, the mask of strength. From childhood, Katsuki Bakugou was told he was destined for greatness. Adults, teachers, classmates, they all crowned him the future #1. He wore that mask proudly, but it burned, because every word of praise was also a chain. Don't fail, don't falter, don't be weak. His mask of strength was never about power, it was about fear, the fear of not being enough. So he postured, he shouted, he exploded, but his anger was always camouflage. Underneath was a boy crushed by expectation, a boy who could not admit weakness without losing himself. He thought being strong meant being untouchable, unbreakable, but with strength, it's not about never failing, it's about choosing who you are after you fall. In My Noble Sin, the book of Bakugou, the Ashen Crown, they told him to be #1, so he wore the crown, but it burned until he realized he didn't want their throne, he wanted peace in his own skin. Bakugou teaches us that ambition without self-worth is self-destruction dressed as success. This parable of the volcano says it best. Real fire doesn't erupt for others, it burns for itself. His sin is pride chained by expectation. His redemption is peace, strength that finally belongs to him, not to anyone else. Deku hides behind hope, Bakugou hides behind strength. Both masks are powerful, both inspire, but both deceive. And here lies the truth. Masks aren't evil because they hide us from others. They're dangerous because they hide us from ourselves. And until we learn to take them off, even the strongest hero or the most determined villain will remain a prisoner. Masks can be both survival tools and a potential prison. If you're enjoying this breakdown of masks and identities, make sure you stick around. I'm going to tie all these characters back to us, the audience, and the masks we wear every single day, and how our masks and how social masks we wear online, gender, race, trauma function similarly. What happens when people praise our mask and ignore our soul? Summarizing some things up that we talked about so far, Lelouch, Light, Ayanokoji, Askeladd, and us, we were masked because we wanted protection, control, justice, or survival. But masks twisted them, forcing them to live a lie, so they wore those masks until they forgot who they really were. Then we're left with a question: what happens if we're doing the same? We've seen how Deku hides behind blind idealism, how Bakugou hides behind blind strength. Both masks inspire, but both deceive, and that's the danger of masks. They don't just hide us from others, they hide us from ourselves. That's where identity and authenticity enter the story, because if you wear a mask too long, you forget the face beneath it. And this isn't just in heroes or villains, whole systems wear masks. The Hero Commission hides behind peace while pulling strings in the dark. The world government in One Piece speaks of justice while enslaving islands and erasing truths. Even the public wears masks, like the mask of naivety, pretending they didn't see a blood-soaked child on the streets at 9 AM in broad daylight in the so-called safest country in the world. They assumed someone else would help, but no one did, and Tenko Shimura became a monster because society chose its mask over responsibility. So what happens when we finally take the mask off? What happens when we ask, who am I really? That's where Megamind and Rango enter our gospel.